Hey, welcome back to Life After 70. Hey, we're heading back to home, our primary residence in Washington State, from our winter home in Southern California. And there's five things that I want to cover in this video. First, it's a 1,300-mile trip, and in the video, I've got a map for each of the stops, and also the route that we took on this trip. Each of the charging stops, I'm giving details on screen of the charging stops and how much I charged and how long I charged, basically all the data. This video is all about the numbers, something that I love working with. So that's the reason that I put this video out, is because I just love working with these numbers and kind of analyzing things. The third thing is the driving time between each stop. And the fourth thing is the scenery. It's absolutely beautiful scenery. And it's a place in the United States where maybe it's not highly visited. So a lot of people haven't seen there. It's through the deserts of California, Nevada, Oregon, Idaho, and Washington. And so it's to me, it's beautiful country. I love the geology, I love the scenery, and I love making this trip. It's back roads in not populated areas, very little freeway. And at the end of the video, the fifth thing is I'm going to show you all the statistics of, including the costs to drive the EV, what kind of efficiency it got. My Lucid, it's a Lucid Air. I love driving the car. It's a fantastic road trip car. Couldn't be more comfortable. I just recently had gotten an update on it the day before we left, and that even just added more enjoyment to the trip, because a lot of the trip was hands-free driving, basically. I was able to just rest my hand on the steering wheel, and the car was doing the driving and the braking and the accelerating, and it was just very relaxing to drive that way. At the end of the video, I'm going to summarize the final data along with the geographical charts and statistics, and comparing some of the trips. I'll compare this trip to last year's trip so that you can we can kind of look at the difference, and I'm going to share my thoughts about how I will plan my trips in the future, because I did things a little different on this trip, and it turned out that it will change the way I do future trips with my EV. And so stay to the end and watch to see what my conclusion is on this and why I'm going to change in doing future road trips. Also with this trip, I used a Better Route Planner, ABRP. And I have the premium version that's connected to my Lucid. And so it reads the Lucid data and makes calculations. And I can tell you that I'm a real believer. ABRP is a fantastic app for road tripping. I'm fortunate that I have Apple CarPlay in the car, and the map is right up there on the screen. And it was very accurate on its estimating of what percentage of charge I would arrive at my destinations, which is the most important thing that I look for in an app, is that I can trust the app to be accurate. And it takes into account the weather, the elevation changes, traffic, everything else. It does a great job, and it actually provides incredibly good statistics if you're interested in the numbers like I am. It did a great job on all of those things. So can't say enough. 2 thumbs up for a Better Route Planner. And I did a video on that recently, a couple videos on a Better Route Planner, but I'm a real believer in it now. I also, in this video, it's a long video, and I did a lot of editing to clip out some stuff, to try to shorten it up, but it's such beautiful country, it's hard to do. But I did put in the description, I put in chapters so that you can skip ahead if you want to get to the conclusion, or you want to skip through. There are chapters for each charging stop so that you can skip to the next charging stop if you're not interested in looking at the scenery. I don't do any talking in this video. There's no music in the video. It's just raw video that I did some cuts to shorten it up, but I felt it was best way to present this trip to you. So at the end of the video, I do have graphical charts that I'm going to put together that I'll show you that explain why I think that this new way of doing road trips this is my fifth year that I've made this trip now, fifth trip. Actually 3 years, 5 trips. But I've now had a lot of experience with road tripping, and I've seen changes along with the number of charging stations. And I think that there's a better way to do it from here forward. And that's what I'm going to share with you at the end of the video. So anyway, I'm glad you're joining us, and I hope you enjoy this. And if you have any questions or comments, please, at the end of the video, make the comments. I read them all. I'm interested to hear what you have to say, and whether this is something that you also agree with. So let me know. And thanks for joining me. So let's get on the road. Thank you. This is the station right here.
Oh, see, I can never remember. This is Coso Junction. Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's fixing the one that's broken.
I don't see any burned trees in here. Well, maybe some.
It's Lucid.
This car sometimes.
It's telling me to go back. I thought it was right in here.
Yeah, I thought it was too, because all of a sudden I started looking familiar. Because didn't we drive all around in here before?
Yeah. I remember it was over, I thought, in that corner over there. There it is. I guess I was supposed to turn that turn before. I remember this. That's a 50. 150. I don't want that. I kept records for all the data from this trip and also the same trip that I made last year. And I'm a numbers guy and this stuff is interesting to me, but I am a bit weird, so I get it if it's not something you care about. But reviewing these numbers revealed something that will change how I make road trips in the future. Let me walk through and first talk a little bit about the spreadsheet, and then we'll take a look at the graphs that show the results in a much better visual way that I think are much easier to understand on why I will change the way I make road trips in the future. So here we go. So what I did in this spreadsheet, and I did the same thing for last year also, is I kept track of all the data here for all the charge stops. And this was a 3-day trip. In the past, I've been doing it in 2 days, but we decided to do it in 3 days and not travel quite so far every day. So anyway, we started out from La Quinta with 96% in our battery. And when we arrived in Coso Junction, which was a total of 235 miles right here, we had 10% in our battery when we arrived. We left, we charged up to 80%, and that actually took 41 minutes to charge up to the 10 to 80%. And we had used 77 kilowatts of power to get there from La Quinta. We added 60 kilowatts of kilowatt hours to the battery. And our efficiency to get to that point was 3.06. And we did have an elevation change. You can see from 39 feet above sea level when we left La Quinta up to 3,373 feet. So that's the reason we didn't get great efficiency there. But the miles we drove were 235. And this column here just subtotals the miles to show what we had driven from this particular day. So, and here's the elevation changes for each, the time charging for each of these stops, and the cost per kilowatt hour, and the energy actually delivered from the dispenser. So in this case, it delivered 66.6 kilowatt hours that cost us $42.62. There's a caveat to that, which I'll explain a little bit. But the difference between this 66.6 and the 60 is energy lost from the dispenser into the car. The power, you have some loss through the cables, you have some loss through running the air conditioning or other factors, but that's a normal thing to lose about my car loses about 9% of what it dispenses versus what actually ends up in the battery. And that's pretty typical for most electric cars, most EVs. So that's kind of what this does. It explains and totals up and gives all of that information, which I fed into some charts, and I'll show you the charts here. So what I did here is I have the charging time, and this graphically shows how much time, how many minutes I spent to charge at each of the stops along the way. And I made 11 stops. From first stop being in Coso Junction, California, and the last one in Hermiston, Oregon, and then from there drove home. So those were the 11 stops that I made along the way. And these are actually the amount of kilowatt hours that I added to the battery at each stop. So you can see, of course, this one right here is in Winnemucca, and the reason I had to charge up to 95% because I had a long stretch with no charging stations in between. So I had to get up to a pretty full charge, and it took me 1 minute short of an hour. So that was a time-consuming charge that won't be a problem next year or this year when I'm heading back down, because there's more charging stations opening in that area, and then also we'll have access to the Tesla charging stations. So that will really help out a lot. And I won't have to charge up to 95%, something you don't want to do, and I'll explain why. So the total kilowatt hours used on this trip was 410 kilowatt hours this year. And last year I used 424. Now, a lot of factors in there. It could be the wind, I did have a lot of wind the first day, and I think I had a lot of wind last year on this trip. So that works against you. The other thing is we took a little bit different route, but not that much different. So it could have been a better efficiency in the car. I just recently got an update on the car, and they tweaked the efficiency of the car. So part of it could be attributed to that too. It's hard to say exactly why, but this is the difference between the 2 years. The California to Washington miles, this was 2024. I drove 1,322 miles. In 2025, I drove 1,335 miles. So a little bit further, and used less kilowatt hours on the battery. And the other thing that is really important here to look at is the number of charging stops. Last year, I made 7 stops, and this year, I made 11 stops. And interesting enough, I spent last year making less stops, 4 hours and 52 minutes charging, and this year, making more stops, 4 hours and 32 minutes of charging. So really what this comes down to is it really shows what everybody has been saying, is that you're better off to stop more often and hit that sweet spot. For me, what I did on this trip was I would charge my car to the point where it needed to be to get to the next trip. And then if I was getting a good charging session, if I was staying above 100 kilowatt hours, 100 kilowatts that I was putting into the battery, 100 kilowatt hours of power coming into my battery, then I would stay on that charging station. But as soon as it dropped below 100, then I would stop the charging and pull the plug and move on to the next charging station. So the sweet spot for my car is not to go above 60% and not go down below 15%. It charges best between that range, and so that's what I found really saved a lot of time on this trip, was to not let it get down to 5% or less, which I have done on previous trips before I stop, and to charge more often. So the other thing that benefit for doing that was that if you have a situation, which I did have when I got to Fruitland, Idaho, to the GMC dealership, the charger was blocked by a Hummer that had been parked there by the dealership. And I went there in the evening and it was blocked. And so I thought, well, I'll just go in the morning. I went there in the morning and it was still blocked. But they were open, and they apologized and moved the Hummer. So it worked out great, but I was able to just put enough power into my car, that would get me comfortably to the next charging stop. It was the only place I had to pay. Everything else was free because I have 3 years of free charging at Electrify America. So I had that benefit of not paying anything other than at Fruitland, where I used a EV Connect right in here. Where's Fruitland? Right here, I used an EV Connect, and I paid $16.30. So that's what the whole trip cost me. But when my 3 years are up and I have to pay Electrify America, it would have been $230.57. Now, the other thing that I see happening, though, is right now prices are really high for charging, for fast charging, unreasonably high, but there's a lot of costs going into putting these charging stations in. But as more charging stations go in, there's competition, I think, will drive that price down. I don't think we'll be looking at 64 cents per kilowatt hour that you're going to be paying for electricity. My guess is it'll probably be down around 35 cents per kilowatt hour because there'll be competition that doesn't exist right now. So anyway, I think these stats are really interesting, and from now on, I'm going to, I'm going to make stops that I wouldn't have made in past years, because I know that I will get there actually faster. And it's also nice to stop and just take a break. And so not going for 4 hours of constant driving and cutting it down to every 2 hours if possible. Again, there will be a lot more choices on doing that this fall and next year on my trip. We go some really desolate country, where there's not much. These are roads not heavily traveled, and they're beautiful roads. I love driving these roads, and I don't miss being on the freeway. So anyway, I hope this really helped you. It was a fun trip for me. I really enjoyed it. If you if you didn't look at all the video, if you're interested in the scenery, it's magnificent. It's beautiful scenery, and I think it's a nice look at maybe some places you haven't seen before. It's beautiful country. So anyway, thank you for joining me, and I really appreciate you watching this video. And if you enjoyed it, thumbs up, please, and subscribe so that you can watch more stuff that I plan to bring out here in the future. And I thank you again for watching. Take care.